Everybody always talks about how great Luigi is, how he deserves the spotlight over Mario, but forget that. You know who really deserves his own game? Toad!
I'm the winner!
Oh, okay, no, he doesn't. But he has one. Just not in the title. This is the last game officially released on the NES in the United States. In 1994, we got Wario's Woods. Wario's Woods is a forgotten NES title, likely because it was released so late in its lifespan. I mean, that's usually what the word last implies. You play as Toad, trying to destroy all the monsters using bombs scattered throughout Wario's Woods. It's a fairly straightforward puzzle game. Stack the monsters in pairs of 3 or more, light them up with the bombs, do it before more monsters are dropped, and repeat. Though the portraits and small cutscenes look nice, Wario's Woods isn't anything mind-blowing in the graphics department. Every stage looks the same. You're in a tree, there are monsters, you blow them up, and you move on. Though each monster does have a different design to designate what type it is, you're not getting something that pushes the NES to its limit here. Not that it really needs to, mind you, but it's simple. The music, like the graphics, repeats a lot as well. There are 2 distinct themes that play throughout the game. Birdo has a more upbeat theme for the time that they're on screen, while Wario's is much more sinister. These are the 2 songs you'll hear for pretty much the entire game, besides what there is for the menus and multiplayer modes. They're catchy and work well enough, just don't expect a lot of variety in music here. And there shouldn't really be that much variety expected at all, as Wario's Woods is a puzzle game. You don't get some earth-shattering changes in Tetris, so don't expect anything like that here. What Wario's Woods does do, as every good puzzle game should, is be addictive. Incredibly addictive. Toad has some crazy strength and can kick, lift, and drop every monster and bomb in the game, which is good because you'll need to mix stacks of monsters and bombs to make it work. The gameplay is pretty easy to understand, just match the colors of the bombs with the same colored monsters and go. Later levels introduce monsters with gimmicks, such as ones that need to be beaten in a certain direction or take more than one hit. Now this would be simple if it weren't for the fact that Wario is always showing up to screw you. When Birdo's around, there's just a fairy being mildly helpful and dropping bombs for you to use against the monsters. But when Wario's on screen, he'll drop extra monsters, bombs you don't need, and make the ceiling begin to drop. This is basically a different take on the match colors or shapes puzzle game that we've seen before, but the fact that you play as Toad makes it a bit more unique. Instead of using a cursor controlling the objects as they fall, you play as Toad himself. Because you have to climb and move objects all around, Wario's Woods becomes much more unique than just any other puzzle game. Stacks of enemies can become a problem when Toad has to scale the whole thing to get to another area, which, by the way, he just runs right up without any problems at all because, well, why not? It's also where the difficulty comes in, because while the area of play is small, it can get frantic enough to where you'll be zooming back and forth, trying not to let the ceiling smash you in or get you boxed in, which, by the way, is kind of horrifying when you do. There's not too much to say. You just keep busting through each of the rounds, each getting progressively more difficult and introducing new enemies along the way. It's a very safe game, and a good one at that. The NES had a hell of a run, and Wario's Woods was a good way to go out. Not with some showstopper that would try to save the system or a sour note, but a solid title that deserves more credit than it gets. What you see is what you get, a very solid and fun puzzle game. Wario's Woods was also on the Super Nintendo, but I don't know, I just like the NES version better for some reason. Either way, it's a Mario title that doesn't get much attention, and you'd do well to pick up the last NES game released in the States.